and laughter and music and feasts were heard in the place that was meant for prayer. Hi friends, here is another poem that I would like to share with you, and it is entitled Forbidden Romance. The church and the world walked far apart on the changing shores of time. The world was singing a giddy song, and the church a hymn sublime. Give me your hand, cried the merry world, and walk with me this way. But the good church hid her snowy hand and solemnly answered nay. I will not give you my hand at all, and I will not walk with you. Your ways are the ways of endless death. Your words are all untrue. Nay, walk with me but a little space, said the world with a kindly air. The road I walk is a pleasant road, and the sun shines always there. Your path is stormy and rough and rude, and mine is broad and plain. The sky above me is always dark. No want, no toil, I know. The sky above you is always dark. Your lot is a lot of woe. My path, you see, is a broad, fair path, and my gate is high and wide. There's room enough for you and for me to travel side by side. Half shyly the church approached the world, gave him her hand of snow. The old world grasped it, and walking along, saying in accent low, your dress is too simple to please my taste. I will give you pearls to wear, rich velvet and silks for your graceful form, and diamonds to deck your hair. The church looked down at her plain white robes, and then at the dazzling world, and blushed as she saw his handsome lip with a smile, contemptuous curl. I will change my dress for a costlier one, said the church with a smile of grace. Then her pure garments drifted away, and the world gave in its place beautiful satins and shining silks, and roses and gems and pearls. And over her forehead her fair hair fell, crisped in 1,000 curls. Your house is too plain, said the proud old world. I'll build you one like mine. Carpets of Brussels and curtains of lace and furniture ever so fine. So he built her a costly and beautiful house. Most splendid it was to behold. Her sons and her beautiful daughters dwelt there, gleaming in purple and gold. And fairs and shows in halls were held, and the world and its children were there. And laughter and music and feasts were heard in the place that was meant for prayer. She had cushioned seats for the rich and gay to sit in their pomp and pride, while the poor folks, clad in their shabby suits, sat meekly down outside. The angel of mercy flew over the church and whispered, I know thy sin. The church looked back with a sigh and longed to gather her children in. But some were off at the midnight ball, and some were off at the play, and some were drinking in gay saloons, so she quietly went her way. The old world gallantly said to her, your children mean no harm, merely indulging in innocent sports. So she leaned on his proffered arm and smiled and chatted and gathered flowers as she walked along with the world, while millions and millions of deathless souls o'er the horrible pit were heard. Your preachers are all too old and plain, said the sly old world with a sneer. They frighten my children with dreadful tales, which they should never hear. They talk of brimstone and fire and pain and the horrors of endless night. They talk of a place that should not be mentioned to ears polite. I will send you some of the better stamp, brilliant and gay and fast, who will tell them all to live as they like, then go to heaven at last. The Father is merciful and great and good, loving, tender, and kind. Do you think he would take one child to heaven and leave the rest behind? So he filled their house with gay divines, gifted and great and learned, while the poor old men that preached the cross were out of her pulpit turned. You give too much to the poor, said the world, far more than you ought to do. If the poor need shelter and food and clothes, why should that bother you? Go, take your money and buy rich robes and roses and gems and pearls and dainty food and rarest and costliest wine. My children, they dote on all such things, and if you their love would win, you must do as they do and walk in the way that they are walking in. The church held tightly the strings of her purse and gracefully lowered her head and simpered, I've given too much away. I'll do, sir, as you have said. So the poor were turned from her door in scorn, and she heard not the orphan's cry. And she drew her beautiful robes aside as the widows went weeping by. The church, the sons of the world, and the sons of the church walked closely hand and heart, and only the Master who knoweth all could tell the two apart. Then the church sat down at her ease and said, I am rich, and in goods increase. I have need of nothing, and naught to do but to laugh and dance and feast. The sly world heard her, and laughed in his sleeve, and mockingly said aside, the church has fallen, the beautiful church, and her shame is her boast and pride. The angel of mercy drew near to the church and whispered, I know thy sin. And the saints their anthems of rapture hushed and covered their heads with shame. Then a voice came down through the hush of heaven from him who sat on the throne. I know thy works, and how thou hast said, I am rich, and hast not known that thou art naked and poor and blind and wretched before my face. Therefore, from my presence I cast thee out and blot thy name from its place. The moral of the story is we should always remain faithful and never, never compromise. Amen?